second module of the whole class. The first module is on introduction. So I already explained in the first 2 weeks on what the research is all about, the type of research, what is needed to conduct the research. And now we move on to the heart of the research, where you will learn on identification of research problem. From that research problem, how to create research question, and from that, how you perform literature review. Uh, I teach this. I arrange this module in chronological order so that you know for a fact that this is the step that you need to do in order for you to complete your research later on. All right. Last week I stopped at how the aim should be, research aim, and also how to do. Sorry, what is the research objective is all about. Okay, so we will cover that again throughout this class, and why I introduce first the aim and the objective is for you to familiarize on the way the research aim and research objective were constructed. Okay, so again, research aim should be something that is in a bigger picture that you want to achieve, but the one that you will really achieve in your project is the specific objective. By completing or by achieving all the objective that you put in your research, it will eventually solve your research aim. Okay, so that's the way of how it is constructed. Okay, so today we will look into the research problem. Okay, how to read the article and how to get the information out of it, and how to extract what are the problems, and what are the research question that can be come out from that paper. Again, when you are doing your assignment later on, or you're doing your dissertation later on, you may need to read more than one article. Okay, but today we only, due to the time limitation, we only deal with one article as an example. So hopefully by exercise that we do today, you will get some idea how to extract the good information, how to critically read the article so that you speed up your reading process. Because when you are doing your dissertation, you need to read a lot, but we don't have the much time. So we need to be smart, and we need to know how to do it in a efficient way. Okay, all right, so let's go to the main part of this week topic. Appropriate research problem, how we want to identify what is the research problem. Okay, so research problem is the heart of the study. So you start your project by addressing what are the problem that you need to solve. So when you are writing your thesis later on, if you do something that is so great, but then the way you put your research problem, the way that you tell the audience that this is the problem, but the problem is very small, or maybe no need to solve it, right? So the examiner later on, or whoever read your thesis, will feel that why you need to do the job, why do you need to do the research. Okay, so we need to highlight the problem that we want to solve, although that is small, this is the problem. Okay, so to highlight that, you need to do a background check first. Okay, so the research problem is the one that drive the research question. So your research question will be formulated from the problem that you have identified, and that's how you will frame your research later on. So framing your framework of your research is relying on the understanding of research problem. So be careful on that. Again, sometimes I do feel that the student try to dilute, not to dilute, accidentally dilute their research problem. But having said that, what I mean is, the research problem is big, but the only thing that student highlight is nobody have done it. Okay, all right. Nobody have done it, of course it's a good thing, but it can be interpreted into something else. Nobody have done it, is it because it shouldn't be done? Is it because it was fundamentally and conceptually wrong, so that's why nobody have done it? Okay, so you must tell your research problem, not only not other people have done it, but also it is solving the problem that is dire. You need to show that. Okay. So when I say the diluted research problem, it's like that. Students keep on highlighting, oh, nobody have done it. Nobody have done it. Yes, of course, nobody have done it, but it should be done in the first place. So that is the critical part, okay? Because a research problem will be the main framework how you narrate your objective and methodology later on, right? So the research problem is the area of concern or gap in existing knowledge. You need to show that this is the part that is dire to be solved, and points to need for further understanding and investigation. So this is the claim that outline and briefly explain the problem addressed by the study. Okay, so when you address the problem for that study, the problem can be one problem, or can be two problem, or can be three problem. That's okay. Yeah. So you need to highlight and you need to outline, break it down. If the problem is too big, you break it down into multiple problems, so that your objective later on addressing those small chunk of the problem. Okay. So when you are describing your research problem, avoid being generalized. Okay. Meaning that be specific as much as possible. Let's say you are designing a car engine. Don't just say that, okay, the car engine now has a problem because of high whatever high conversion rate of heat lah, whatever and all that. Not just saying that. So why is it high? Which part of it high? And how this high affect the whole efficiency of the engine car. Okay, so you need to be really specific and able to break it down in small chunks, so that that small chunk will be later the objective that you want to fulfill. Keep this simple framework in mind, where when you want to explain, or when you want to write about your research problem, it should start with what are known thing. It should start with that. Commonly, what are commonly been done? What are the basis of this? So this is the basis. Okay. Then only you go to the what are not known. Okay, this is where your gap is. The knowledge gap. The knowledge gap then lead to the research problem, and then you can express your research problem in terms of the form of question. All right. So the chronological order is actually in this inverted triangle. The one that is not, this is the known part. You go down, this is the unknown part, unknown, and you highlight the gap even further to the one that you want to achieve. At the end of the day, this is what you want to achieve. Okay. All right. So this is the hierarchy to be considered while framing the research problem and also research question. Okay, I pick the example of I just pick one example to highlight how the inverted triangle works. How we formulate from the things that we know to the research gap, to from the gap to the research problem, to the research problem, go to the research question, and eventually the objective that you want to achieve. All right, let's look at this scenario. This project is actually on developing a new material for the battery, so that the battery for the e-vehicle will last longer, will be lightweight, and you don't need much time in order for you to charge the battery. So that's the project is all about, the overview of the project. Okay, I repeat, the project is about developing a high capacity battery that is more efficient. You don't need a longer time to charge. And most important thing, small, so that it can be fit in the car and fast charging and all that. All right. So how to frame this issue? How to frame this issue? Okay, we start with the bigger thing that is known. What are known? Bigger things that we know. I go to on the bigger issue that is known is on the global warming. Okay, so when I touch on the global warming, I will highlight that what is the factors that affect things, the global warming. And then current statistic. What is the current state right now? That involved in the global warming issue. Current statistic right now, if even better, if you can highlight the statistical factors or parameters that happen in overseas and also in Malaysia. Okay, for example, in this particular issue, in the global warming issue, countries that come in the country that is under signatory of Paris Agreement has agreed that all country has agreed that we will reduce whatever emission so that our temperature will not raise by 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next 5 years. That's what the promise of the Paris Agreement. So maybe we can put that. All country, Asian country, China not in that line. Most of the country in Asia already put agreement with the Europe part so that everyone control their emission so that at the end of the day, in the next 5 years, by 2050, we don't have a raise of temperature by 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Although that 1 to 1.5 may seem small, but we could highlight what is the impact. What is the impact of this? 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius. If it's increased, what is the impact? So you will have major flood, glacier will be melt, and so on. All right. So in order to address this big problem, we need a solution to reduce the carbon dioxide. Okay, carbon dioxide is not contagious actually. The trees need carbon dioxide. But looking at the scenario of urbanization, so you can highlight that urbanization, that's not much tree to absorb the CO2, right? Yes, Ari, go ahead. Ari, you exit.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
Just one question. Let's say we want to do this factors or statistic. We have a lot of information from the internet and our info we can get up there. So how do we know that the statistic value is valid? Because there's so much information up there. So which one do we choose? Which information is valid, or is it false, or yeah?
Right. Thanks, Ari. Okay, good question. Which one is valid? If it's involved to me, you find the reference on a respected sources. For example, if it's involved on the involved on the health part, you can go to WHO, World Health Organization website. That one is reliable. Don't cite from Wikipedia. Wikipedia people can edit it, so it's not relevant. But if you are dealing with this kind of issue like global warming and all that, go to the UN SDG website that discuss on this particular issue, on the environmental issue. So you go to the relevant government agency or government website to look on this parameter. Don't simply cite on like Wikipedia or even sometimes the news on Facebook that may not be relevant. Okay, so cite at the website that they are the one who handle this particular issue. For example, like health issue is WHO. Malaysia also follow WHO and all that. And on the this perspective of global warming and all that is available. Actually, part of it is in WHO, part of it in the SDG website. Right? Okay, Airi, did I answer your question? Okay, all right. So I continue. So one of the way to reduce the global warming impact is through reducing the emission of carbon dioxide. So now you see, from the global warming issue, now I already go down a bit on the solution. One of the effective solution is actually we need to reduce CO2. But how we want to do it? The perspective of this research is going into the e-vehicle. So the implementation, we need to increase the implementation of e-vehicle. Okay, now this go even deeper. So the one from the known part, global warming, all right? The issue of the global warming, how to solve that global warming, one of the way is CO2. That is also known. We haven't go to the knowledge gap yet. We haven't. We still at the what unknown. Until here, we still at what unknown. All right. Now, e-vehicle is one of the fastest way to reduce the CO2. If many people use the e-vehicle, eventually the impact is tremendous. But again, e-vehicle is not that suitable, especially in our country, where we are in the hot country, where the battery, the life cycle of the battery depend on the temperature, affected by the temperature, and our country cannot run with that. We don't have 4 season. We always have hot or raining. All right. So the problem with the e-vehicle, especially in our country, is the capacity of the battery. The battery cannot last longer, or even it can last longer. You need like more than 30 minutes to charge the battery. Imagine if you balik kampung, you go back home for Hari Raya, if you pump in petrol, you just need like 5 minutes. But if you bring your e-vehicle, you stop at one station to charge your battery and you need 30 minutes. Imagine that 30 minutes, how long that you will stuck in traffic after that. So the problem with the e-vehicle is on the charger of the battery. The battery is the problem. All right. Now, the battery is the problem. This is we are starting to go on the gap. Battery is the problem of the e-vehicle right now. So we need a high capacity battery, fast charging battery, and lightweight. The most important thing is lightweight. So this is the start with the problem statement. You start with the problem statement. You start telling what is the problem with the battery. Okay, putting the scenario. What is the life cycle of the battery is one more issue. How long it is needed to charge? Life cycle of the battery is another issue, and all that. Why is that? For example, you are talking about life cycle of the battery. Are you talking about the capability to charge in the optimal performance? So it depends on the electrolyte material. So you need a material that is not easily combusted and not easily, dissipated the heat and dissipated the charge. Okay, so not just only you want it lightweight, you want the best material that will have the capability of fast charging, right? So this is where your research is. Your research for this particular project, the research is actually designing or selecting the best electrolyte material for the high capacity battery to be used in e-vehicle in order to address the issue of global warming. You see, so the one that you do is not the global, you are not tackling the global warming per se, your issue is here. This is your research. But in order for you to, when you achieve this objective, it will eventually serve the purpose of the aim, which is reducing the global warming, reducing the impact of global warming by reducing CO2. Right? So from here, when you are clear that your research is actually in the particular area of the electrolyte material, then you formulate the research question and objective based on that. Your objective should be after this. This is your objective after this. First is research question, then objective. Your objective shouldn't be at here. Shouldn't be at here. Shouldn't. If your objective be at here, meaning that you want to develop e-vehicle. Or if your objective at here, meaning that you want to develop the battery. Your focus is on the material inside the battery. You are not developing a new battery. You're developing the electrolyte material. That electrolyte material, development of electrolyte material is already a novel thing, is already cutting edge to solve the battery of e-vehicle. So the whole component of the battery, there's electrode, there's electrolyte. You are not talking about electrode. You are talking about electrolyte material. So your scope is on electrolyte material. So when you narrate your objective, it should be at the bottom part. The one that you are doing is at electrolyte material. If you constructing your objective saying that you are developing the battery, the examiner can ask you about electrode. Why you use this electrode? Why you didn't change? Let's say you use only one type of electrode to test in the lab. Why you only test with one electrode? Because you are saying your battery is efficient, so you should test another type of electrode. See, so it goes beyond what you actually do. So that's why be careful on that. We need our research problem and research objective to be specific so that we know that this is our scope. Our scope is on developing the material, the good material for the e-vehicle battery. You are not developing the vehicle, you are not developing the battery, you just develop a component of the battery that is very, very important. So, adjusting the electrolyte material, changing the electrolyte material or proposing the new electrolyte material is a novel thing. It's a new thing that need to be addressed. Okay, and it will be good if you could support that with the finding or with the theory. I don't know. This is not my field. I don't know about this electrolyte battery and all that. But it will be good if you could highlight that. Although the battery has the electrode, has the electrolyte, but the most important thing that affecting the life cycle of the battery is not the electrode, it's the electrolyte material. So that will make your problem even dire to be solved. Regardless of whatever electrode that you use, it's not that important. The most important thing is electrolyte. So that's why you tackle on electrolyte. So you highlight that it become more important, your problem is more dire than changing the whole battery. So your solution later on, you don't need to change the whole structure of the battery. We just change the material of the electrolyte. That would increase the performance of the existing battery to 80%, 90%, for example. All right. Understand, I hope you guys understand from the how it is from the known part, we're going deeper to the unknown. Again, don't be too ambitious, don't be too ambitious. Again, your master is at this level. Even PhD student also, we should do it at this level. But of course, the PhD student, the problem that they want to solve is more dire, is more problematic than the master problem issues, so you don't need to be so ambitious, like you are stating the statement that this project will reduce the CO2 by 50%. That's not what you are focused in. You are focusing on this part. E-vehicle is just one of the way to reduce CO2. There's so many other way to reduce CO2. Like composting waste and all that, recycling and all that. So there's so many ways of reducing CO2. But your focus is only on the e-vehicle and the material of electrolyte, right? Any questions so far? Okay. All right. Let's look at the example of the difference between research problem and the research question. All right. The first part. Generally, this is just a general example. The teachers at school X do not have the skill to recognize or properly guide gifted children in the classroom. So that's the problem. If let's say there is a genius student in the classroom, teachers do not being trained to detect this genius student. But what happens if the genius student stay in the classroom that is lower than his ability to think, So that student potential are not being polished 100%, So that's the problem. Okay. Now, from this problem, how we want to construct the question and eventually later on construct the objective. Okay, the research question here is, what practical techniques can teacher at school X use to identify and guide the gifted children? Okay, so the problem just now is the teachers do not have the skill to detect and even to guide. So the question is, what are the practical technique? Practical technique, the word is practical technique. What practical technique that the teachers can do? Practical mean that it can be done straight away, you don't need so much tools and all that. Okay, so if I can construct the objective for this project, the first objective will be to construct a questionnaire survey, for example, like that. To questionnaire survey or to perform IQ test analysis based on 3 factors, holistically based on 3 factors, cognitive, psychomotor, and affective, for example. That could be your objective. So what are the practical technique? Maybe it would be like to construct comprehensive assessment for to gauge students' IQ level. That could be the objective, right? Okay, we look at the next example. Under 30s increasingly engage in the gig economy instead traditionally full-time employment. But there is little research into young people experience of this type of work. Okay, that's a problem. The question that you can formulate is, what are the main factors that influence these young people, the decision to involve in this gig economy? So what is the advantage and disadvantage of gig economy versus the traditional full-time employment? Do age and education level have an effect on how people experience this type of work? So if this is your research question, the objective will be to determine the age and education level, So this one would be like, the objective could be like to determine age and education level baseline for blah, blah, blah. Okay, this one, perhaps to identify this is to identify advantage and disadvantage. Perhaps this one is to identify main causal factor, for example, causal factors of young people decision to engage in gig economy. All right. So your research question is very, very specific so that you can formulate the research problem, and it must be in line. The most important thing, it must be in line. Don't create something research question, but the objective is something else. That's not in line, does not even match. Okay. All right. A research question is the question that being set out to answer, and the good research question, it must be relevant. It must be relevant. That's why when you are putting you constructing your research problem, the research question must be really, really relevant to the problem that you want to address. For example, like this case, Okay, for example, for this case, the research problem is the battery do not have the good capacity, does not have the high capacity to last longer. So the research question is, what are the factors that affecting the life cycle of the battery, for example? That's number one. Number two, perhaps, what are the best combination of electrolyte and electrode materials for the battery? Okay, so that could be the question that being raised by this type of problem. Okay, it must be relevant because you are developing, you want to propose something for the better battery that has higher capacity. So your research question should not go into like what is the best battery for the e-vehicle? You get what I mean? Although that is still battery, but that's not your scope. The best battery for e-vehicle, meaning that you want to solve the e-vehicle issue. That's not what you want to solve. You want to solve the battery issue. So the question should go lower than that, lower than the battery issue, which is like the component of it, the factors that affecting it, and etc. And it must be interesting. Okay, why I put interesting in here is, if your research question seems that very straightforward, and straightforward one thing, it looks like if you Google it or if you search on it, you will find the answer. So why you want to spend 2 semesters to do research about it? So it's not that interesting. Okay, so you have to put it there, the problem, so that the research question that you come up with really interesting and really targeting your objective. Like I said just now, if you could highlight that the battery performance heavily rely on the electrolyte rather than electrode. Okay, so that make it interesting. So people will forget about the other part of the battery, just focus on the problem that you see. So that make it interesting. That make it your problem is a dire problem to be solved. All right, and focus and specific. Again, look at this inverted triangle. Focus on the material itself. The objective is here, not at the battery part, not at the e-vehicle, not at the reducing CO2. Focus on the material. Researchable. Researchable. Can be done. Can be done. And this is the thing, and timely. Timely. This is the thing that is crucial for especially for master by coursework student. It must be researchable, it must be timely. You need to show that the solution is not just one time of Googling, you get the answer already. You must show that, okay, it needs a further investigation. You need to test on certain material and all that. And it can be done within 2 semesters because you are just a master, you are not PhD student. PhD student has up until 8 semester, 4 years of doing PhD. But that consider long lah. So you don't have the luxury of time. So make sure that the research question is researchable, and also it is timely. Consider also why, how, so what with this, and what if this thing is changing. Okay, and you need to be able to justify that whatever that you are doing later on is worth to be done. So that's why the researchable part need to show that it can be done, and it can be done within the time frame. Right. Okay. Any question before I go on the next part? No, all right. Now we already I hope you get some idea already by now. What is the difference between the bigger issue to the smaller issue, and how to determine what is the problem, and constructing the research question. I hope you already get some idea what is the difference between these two. All right. Now we go into a more realistic part. Where to find the research problem? It looks weird when even I write the title, I don't know what to put there. Where to find the research problem? It seems like, okay, we want to find we are seeking problem. It looks that way. But in the research, when you want to show that whatever that you're doing is worth to be done, you must show that this is the problem that need to be solved. So in order for you to find a research problem, it can come from two sources. One is the real life. I said real life here is where the scenario that you observe is a problematic, and you know for a fact that this is something that can be investigated on. When I said problem that is something that is problematic, and there's research to be conducted, you need to make sure that the problem need to be solved by a little bit of investigation in nature. But if the problem can be solved by you buying things and replace it, that's not the research problem. Understand? For example, um, you go to your, okay, let's for example, one of the room in your house, the light bulb is broken. So okay, that's a problem, light bulb is broken. But the solution is you go to Mr. DIY, buy a new bulb and replace it. Okay, so that's not the research problem. That's a problem, but not research problem. Okay, so it cannot be investigated on. I mean, like if it's just broken and it only broken like once in 1 year or once in 2 years, it's just the solution is just to replace the light bulb. Okay, but that problem could be the research problem if after you change the light bulb, less than 2 weeks is broken again, or less than 1 week it broken again. And also if you already change the light bulb, it keep on happening in reoccurrence time. Every weekly perhaps it is broken. So that is something that can be investigated on. You have to check whether the wiring is okay or not. You have to check whether the port or even the switch is it broken or not. So that's something that you can investigate it on. You understand? I give the simplest analogy. So the real life problem that you observe must be followed by something that is investigative in nature. So later, when you are proposing title that coming out from your industry later on, yeah, make sure that problem is the problem that first, number one, it happened quite frequent. Secondly, the solution to that problem requires you to set certain parameters and check whether it is effective or not, and investigative in nature, meaning that there's an exploratory part in that. Then you can pick up that as a research problem. Understand, eh? Because of last semester, when I said that the research problem can come from real life, students sometimes just pick up a problem that is not a research in nature. Don't be like that lah. You have to pick something like is researchable. Okay. And the second part is the scholarly arena, meaning that you read from the articles, you read few articles, you read like the website of like SDG website or WHO website that is reporting on the current problem right now. So that could be considered as a scholarly arena, and you can identify your research problem from there, from this bunch of literature review article. Okay, all right. I go for the first part. In real life. So research problem from the real life can be as simple as observing the complication and issues in your local workplace. Right? You just observe. For example, in UM, the issue of traffic jam, for example, in UM. So the problem statement can come from just observing day to day for 1 month. What is the scenario of the traffic inside UM? And is it an ongoing issue, or it just happened during Ramadan only? So no, it's happened every day, except that Ramadan is amplified. I don't know why. So that's an issue that you can pick up, right? So ongoing issue on a daily basis, ongoing. That's why I said, if your lamp is broken, one time in like 2 years, in 1 year, it's only broken one time. It's not an ongoing issue. It's just an issue that you need to replace it. Okay. So the research is something that solving the ongoing issue on daily basis. So ongoing obstacle and issue in the workplace can be a catalyst for for you to develop the research problem. So you see, let's say in one control process pipeline. So you see that there's always hiccup in the middle of this factory pipeline in the control process. So you identify what are the variable that could affect, what are the factors. When I say variable, meaning that what are the factors that could affect the performance of this whole pipeline. Is it the workers? Is it the machine? Is it on the supply chain sequence that is not, or the work flow that is not smooth, or what? So this is the thing that we can take it as a catalyst for us to develop a research problem. The next part, scholarly arena. So how to find the research problem? By reading the literature review. So first of all, reviewing recent literature, report and database in your field. Recent. So when we are talking about recent, this is very relative to when you want to submit your thesis. Okay. So you are submitting your thesis not this year, next year, 2014, for example. I said this also to my full research student. When you plan to submit your thesis, let's say the student say, okay, doctor, I plan to submit the thesis next year, 2024. So the recent issue is 5 years back from the moment that you want to submit your thesis. So let's say you want to submit next year, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019. The max, maybe you take 2018 issues. That's the max. That's the max. Why I said 5 years back? If more than that, that's not recent. if you are talking about the issue that happened during when I was doing my PhD back in 2010 or 2011, that problem already solved by so many algorithm already, you know. So you need to address the issue that is recent. So that's why when you are searching for literature, I will teach you how later on. Search for the recent article. Don't cite the paper that is 1998, 1999. You know, when we are still at school. So don't cite that. It's not recent. Perhaps that problem is already being solved already. Okay. So when you are you want to construct your problem statement, make sure you find the recent article so that you're solving the recent problem. Yeah? And then when you are reading the article, there's normally one section in that journal will provide the recommendation for the future study. Yeah? So normally at the end, at the conclusion part, either in the report or in the thesis or in the journal article, normally at the back or at the last part of the section, the author already put what is the recommendation that can be taken up from this research. Recommendation means that what else can be done for future study. So that could be the idea for you to construct your research problem. Okay? And then another way is for you to looking at what theory need to be tested in is another opportunity to develop research problem. What theory need to be tested? Perhaps that theory is well known for different application, but never in that in the particular problem that you want to solve. But using the same concept, it can be done. So you take what the existing theory and you test it to the new application. Okay, so that could be the research problem that you want to highlight. For example, for this part, there's a new technology that being developed in the medical field using the same concept of battery positive and negative, same concept of same basic concept of electrical energy, where the positive charge attracted to the negative and vice versa. They use that fundamental when there is a patient that is having open wound injury. They supply open wound injury. So there's a gap between the two area of the skin. So they supply the positive energy to one side of the skin and negative energy to one side of the skin, and then they amplify the voltage. So the attraction will be more. Due to that, they can see that the skin from this side is now merging and overlapping to the other side. So previously it was open wound. By supplying a little bit charge, a little bit electrical energy, it will be combined. So the wound is closed now. So that's the new invention in the medical part. But the concept, the theory is just electrical theory, not even, like there's no second order derivative or there's no second order circuit and all that. No, it's just a simple electrical circuit where you have two potential, the two potential of the voltage, they can form artificial skin, so that's the theory that being known in other field, but now it need to be tested in that particular area, which is on the skin surface. So that a lot of experiment can be done. What is the optimum voltage to make sure that the attraction of positive and negative side, and how long does it affecting the patient? Is it the voltage is too high until it kill the surrounding skin and all that? Okay, so you are looking is in that kind of problem. You are looking at the theory that is very well known in other part, but you want to test it to address a research problem. Okay. All right. How to evaluate a research problem? A research problem is deemed appropriate when it is supported by literature. Okay, I put that the first one, or supported by theory actually. So when your research problem, of course you are of course that you are constructing a new research problem. There's no specific theory to address that, of course, but somehow, some way, it must be fundamentally following the theory that is available, or you support it with the literature. And it must be significant to be solved. Why need to solve if it's not significant? Don't waste your time. Timely. The research problem need to be able to be solved within a time frame. And you need to highlight the novelty of it, the new thing about it. As I mentioned just now, the electrical theory that is being applied is not novel. It is a common thing, it's a textbook theory. But it is novel to form a new skin to close the wound, and it must be specific and clear, like the one in the inverted triangle just now. It must be very specific. You are just targeting your material in the battery. You are not solving the battery issue. Of course, when you solve the electrolyte issue, you solve the battery issue, but your particular work involved on the material of the electrolyte only, not the whole research on the battery. Researchable. I keep on mentioning this, researchable. You need to find the problem that can be conducted in, that can be followed by few steps of experiment, few steps of analysis and all that. If it can be solved straight away by you replacing that item, that's not a research problem. Bear in mind that. All right. Now, okay. When we are talking about the novelty just now, and it must be specific and clear. So what is the new and what is the existing knowledge? Okay. So the existing knowledge here is needed to make the case that there is a problem and that it is important. Okay. So the existing knowledge, when you highlight that, before you introduce the problem of your research, you need to highlight what has been done now. Okay. So for example, like this case. Before you want to highlight that you are proposing something else, you need to mention it. It is worth for you to mention that currently, what is the material used for this electrolyte? Is it proton-based material, for example? Okay, so many e-vehicle battery right now using the high electrolyte material that is proton-based, for example. So you need to discuss on that. Okay, what is the common problem? The existing knowledge. People are using that proton battery. However, that proton battery is 1, 2, 3 and all that. So you want to solve the issue by proposing maybe electron-based battery. Electron-based material. I just simply said that's not really true. But again, if you are still people out there still use proton-based electrolyte, and you also want to propose proton-based electrolyte, but slightly different combination. So you cannot tell, when you write the thesis, you cannot tell that the proton-based got problem, and then you want to use proton-based. You get what I mean? So when you want to, if you encounter with that kind of problem, find a way to show that, okay, in the world out there, people use proton-based, but this proton-based has a problem if blah, 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 and, affected by the temperature and all that. So how to make it better? This proton-based can be combined with another composite, combined with another material to make it more efficient. Okay, that one is okay. Meaning that when you are still using the basis of that, you need to highlight what is the basis that is having the problem. Then only you propose a solution. Okay. The knowledge that is sought to be produced does not yet exist. By describing what other knowledge already exists. This is what I meant. You need to tell what are the material of electrolyte that people being used right now, and pointing out that there is the part that is missing. So perhaps the proton-based electrolyte is good. So you still want to use that, but what's missing? Proton-based only, unstable, for example, expensive, for example, corrosive, for example, material is corrosive, affected by temperature. So you still want to use proton-based, but you combine with nanoparticle, for example. So to solve, Why combining the nanoparticle? To solve this thing. So when you combining a nanoparticle with the proton will become more stable, less corrosive, and so on. Okay. So the missing part here is they don't have the material that is good enough to withstand all this problem. Okay. So the new and existing knowledge, and which part is missing? The part is missing is the problem that you want to solve. And that is the gap that you want to address. Okay. All right. Now we already know what is the new, what is the existing. Now we want to do the literature review. We want to start reading